Any Tom, Dick, or Harry can tell you that Geico could save you money on car insurance. But since money talks, why not go straight to the source?
Hey, Harry's Money here. And the day Harry went to Geico.com and switched his car insurance was the day I got to hang around. Finally, boys bonding, bada bing, bada boom. No wonder Geico has 97% customer satisfaction. Personally, I give him 100, but that's just my 2 cents. That was funny.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Blog Talk Radio.
Greetings, everyone. This is the Sound Health Options Show with Richard Talk to Me Guy and Sherry Edwards. Happy New Year, Sherry. Good morning.
Happy New Year to you, and welcome to 2016.
Wow.
I remember back when I was in the 19s, and it's like, God, I'll be 53 or something in the year 2000. That just seemed ancient. But here we are and beyond. So.
And beyond. It is very much like I've been dropped in a time tunnel, like I've gotten in the Back to the Future DeLorean, and suddenly I'm here going, wait a minute, how did this happen? I was at a party the day after New Year's Day with a family I've known for a long time, and I was talking to one of the kids, air quote kids, who informed me that she's going to be 50 next year, and I almost fell over because I've known her since she was a toddler. Really? Wow, man. I feel like one of those old people going, wow, what happened? How did I get here? Excuse me.
Well, welcome everybody to Sound Health Options. I think we're going to work on anti-aging this year from the sounds of it. Happy to have you with us. We do have a very special guest today, Dr. Adele Brand. She's a dentist, and her daughter, Deidre, is going to be with us. Dr. Brand is a holistic dentist who uses alternative therapies in her dental practice, including sound. So we're interested to hear about that. She is the author of a book about indigo children, and we're going to talk about both of these topics. Richard, do you want to talk about simultaneous broadcast?
Sure. So for people who are listening to us at Blog Talk Radio and or want to get to the WebEx feed or vice versa, everything can be gotten to at soundhealthoptions.com. Click on the radio tab, and then for today, click on Blog Talk Radio, and you'll see a link there that will take you to either the feed that Sherry is managing, where we have WebEx, where Sherry shows web pages or charts or anything that she's showing, and there's also an active chat over there, and or you can join me at Blog Talk Radio. There's a link that'll take you to the Blog Talk Radio site where you can join chat there, and or you can also call in and listen at 347-850-1407, and that's Blog Talk Radio. And a lot of times what people do is they watch the feed at WebEx and listen to the show at the 347-850-1407.
And immediately after the show, it will be available at Blog Talk Radio on our site, Sound Health Options, under Radio. And it takes me a few hours to go ahead and edit the video of this, but I will put it up on the site too, under Radio, Blog Talk Radio. We are coming to you from the studios of Sound Health and the Institute of Bioacoustic Biology. We're a registered 501c3 nonprofit. We're the largest research institute in Ohio that deals with sound and its effect on living systems. We bring you the show with the idea of providing you ideas and information in support of a more authentic life. We are going to bring to you this week Countervailing the Season. Now, this is a software that's under our download tab under bonus. And what we've done is taken all of the recommended vaccines for this year, and we decoded them and translated them into frequencies, and we put those into a compendium from years past up until now of all the different vaccines. So you can download that. It is free. You can download the instruction booklet and all of the information about how to use it, including charts, right from our site. And remember also that we keep up there the radiation software, especially for those of you on the Pacific Coast. And seems to be weird, but Connecticut, Massachusetts, in there seem to be getting a lot of radiation exposure in the last year or so. So that software is there for you, and it is free. You said, Richard, is that you want to make a comment?
It was actually the, well, there's always the, curious thing that you give so much software away for free. That is an amazing thing. I was actually pausing in my mind thinking, I wonder if that's the Connecticut elevated levels. I'm curious if that has to do with a weather pattern or if there's something leaking up there that nobody's talking about.
Well, I got that information from Dr. John Apsley that we had on the show weeks ago. And speaking of giving away software, we have another 2-day workshop for the public, which means it's free, including the software. And I think there's 4 or 5 softwares that go with this, and we're going to be doing it the end of next week on the 7th and 8th from 10 to 4. And it's going to be about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And we have done this originally about the military guys coming back and so many of them committing suicide. But the holidays are stressful, divorce is stressful, not having a job is stressful, health is stressful. So not just military folks, although we are giving them preference to be in the class because we only have limited number of seats. But that one's coming up, and we have decided to go ahead and do at least 2 more of these 2-day workshops. So the one in February is going to be Matters of the Heart, and we have some new compatibility software that we are going to be introducing to the public. Richard, do you have any announcements this week?
I do. I have one announcement. If you can put that up at the WebEx, that would be great. This is a great thing. This is a sleeper thing that people don't, I think, even are aware of. The White House, Obama signed a bill, signed into law today. I'm not sure of the actual date of that. This was dated December 28th. The Microbead Free Waters Act. So microbeads are little plastic pellets. They're used in cosmetics. They're used, I don't know if they're actually used in dental product, in toothpaste or things. We'll ask the doctor. But they're used a lot in cosmetics and other ways as a small abrasive. And the part is that they don't break down. They're little tiny pieces of plastic that then when they if we use them on our skin or on our body scrubs or on our soaps, they just then go down the drain. So those little pieces of plastic, because we don't have quite enough plastic in our water supply and in the ocean, these little microbeads just have been, going out. I don't know when we first started using microbeads in cosmetics and in soaps, body scrubs. But the president put this bill in about let's stop that. Because even if people were to scoff and say, it's just plastic in the water. Yeah, well, except for the fact that fish eat that water, drink that water, swim in that water, live in that water. We then eat the fish, or something eats the fish that we eat. So there you go. We're eating microbeads. So that's going to stop. I'm really happy about that.
Well, when Bibi Farber was on the show, she showed a lot about this. So they could go to Next World TV, and get a lot of information about this because she had a whole show about it.
Yeah.
I had one tiny little announcement, and I'll put it up for people. Almost every year for the past 10 years or so, the FDA, between Christmas and New Year's, there's a week in there where people aren't paying much attention. And so a couple of years ago, they gave permission to a company to combine 3 natural forms of B6 into a new form that Big Pharma could control. Now, they had a big fight about it, and I think they had to undo that. But this year, in that time zone, they started this, looks like in November, but they approved the first seasonal influenza vaccine containing an adjuvant, and particularly for people 65 years and older. And they're going to mandate it that you can't have your prescriptions or your monthly stipend or whatever that's called unless you begin to cooperate. So this is probably not in the flu season information that we decoded and put out for you on our site, but we will go after this one and find it and add it to this countervailing the season just as quickly as we can. We have been trying for years to put a program together with the cooperation of the government and Bill Gates and all these people, that people be pre-tested for these vaccines. Just like we're going to ask our guest about pre-testing people for the kinds of filling materials that she uses. So when the government decides, or whoever's deciding these things, decides that what's best for us and our body isn't our own, then that's when we go to work and try to find a frequency-based antidote to that, and that's what we provide to the public. We are energy beings. When I taught at Georgetown, often it was a group of doctors that came in every month, and I would say, those of you who do not have an energy body, would you please leave? And they were stuck. They can't really prove there is an energy body, like auras and all the frequencies that run on your nerves. They aren't really saying scientifically there is an energy body. They're kind of lost there as to where it begins and ends. But they had to use an energy body to get up and leave. So kind of a dichotomy there. Dr. Idelle Brand, in her website that I will put up, states that she uses energy medicine and alternative health in her practice. So we are going to talk to her about dentistry and then bring on her daughter, Deidre, more about the energy body. Richard, do you have any other announcements before you introduce our guest?
I do have a little tiny footnote that there's a milestone recently reached in wind turbines in the United States. There are now more than 50,000 wind turbines in the U.S. that produce over 70 gigawatts. And if somebody in chat who's smarter than I can tell us what a gigawatt is, I know it's a lot, but that's an amazing amount, more than 50,000 turbines. Just producing energy just by not polluting. It's a shocking idea in a world of let's pollute and make something. So that's a short announcement.
There is Karen put an announcement in our chat. You don't want Bill Gates to be involved. He is not helping with vaccines. He's killing with them. Well, I've written to them many times and informed them about what we are doing. And I think it's my job, if I know something, it's to inform people of how they could take advantage of the research that we're doing here. So I'm not going to leave him alone. I'm going to continue to bombard him with the good stuff. Richard,
and we like you, and we like you for that attitude. So that's really good.
Thank you, Richard.
You bet.
I'm probably seen as a pest world over. Would you introduce
well, at least you're recognized for that. That's really good. I think that's an okay thing. Somebody has to be, pecking away at it on a regular basis. That's really good. I'll now introduce the guest. Dr. Idelle Brand is a holistic dentist, multifaceted integrative healer, and a teacher of diverse complementary healing modalities. She's a fellow of the Academy of General Dentistry, a fellow of the Institute for Natural Dentistry, and a certified nutritional consultant. She's also extensively trained in the field of energy medicine, including hypnosis, Reiki, neurolinguistic programming, EFT, and sound therapy. Dr. Brand is the author of numerous health-related articles, a prolific writer on her blog, and has published 2 books on natural healing. She's also the founder of Enlightened Dentistry, a new paradigm of holistic dental care that encompasses healing of the body, mind, and spirit. Good morning, Dr. Brand.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
You too.
Thank you.
So I right out of the gate, I want to ask, were you always, well, no, let me back this up. Were you a regular dentist, air quotes regular, and then you had an aha moment, or did you always have a lean toward alternative practices even when you were studying to be what I would call a straight dentist?
No, I was always holistically oriented, but I never really brought it into the dental practice. I mean, I do have a good background in nutrition, so that's about as far as it went. But the aha moment actually occurred many years ago because I had chronic Lyme disease, and I had it for a lot of years, about 8 years, and they sort of left me as incurable. And I did get well in spite of that diagnosis, and as a result of that, I've written one book. Actually, I've written 2 books, and I've become a spokesperson to talk about alternative medicine. And one of the things that really made the difference for me was that sound therapy, because I had taken a weekend course in working with tuning forks that balance the chakras. And after 12 years of having fibromyalgia, I no longer had it after one weekend of that class. So I integrated that into my practice. So when everybody comes in, and now each of them get a 2-minute tune-up to balance their energy field. And it's very relaxing, and they're in a much better grounded place there. But that's how I got into it, was because of my own health challenges and where life took me on that journey.
I think that could be your next book title, is In Spite of My Diagnosis. That's a book waiting to happen. I don't even know what the book is, but that is such a book waiting to happen. That title would be like the deal.
Yeah. It's funny because I did write another book besides the one that we were going to talk about. It's called My Secrets to Regaining Health, and it's actually a very small book, and it talks about all the things I've learned, sound therapy and energy healing and detoxing, the simple things like oil pulling, body brushing, all the simple things, emotional traumas, how to get rid of them with EFT. And I've written that book as well if people are interested more in the physical aspects of healing, although there is a slight energy aspect to it as well. And the book is good because we have it in the office, and people are always looking for ways to heal themselves, because most of my patients that come to me have these incurable chronic diseases, whether it's autoimmune diseases or cancers or just not feeling right, and nobody can put an actual diagnosis to it, which is sort of what happened to me, because when I had my Lyme disease, I was walking around for 2 years getting sicker and weaker, and all the doctors would tell me was that it was all psychosomatic and I should go see a psychiatrist because there's nothing physically wrong with me. But meanwhile, I had this Lyme, which was doing its damage, and eventually ended up in a very bad place where I was sort of like a person that had multiple sclerosis, where I couldn't walk, I couldn't stand. I had a lot of neurological and physical damage. My muscles had atrophied. My heart had cardiac problems galore. I had intestinal issues. I had brain fog. I mean, the list was endless. And anybody who's had Lyme disease should know that, they know the symptoms, but they should know that all these things are curable. And I'm sort of that poster child for it. And I'd say many of my patients come to me because they know of the challenge that I had with this illness, and have overcome it.
And are dentists, again, regular dentists, I'll come up with another phrase at some point, are regular dentists educated to look at the mouth as an indicator for other conditions in the system besides obvious periodontal disease? Do you think most dentists have that sort of same perspective, that people are coming to you as a dentist, but that you can assist them with other conditions because it's showing up in the condition of their gum health and their teeth issues, or they have amalgams, or they have all that? As a dentist, do you typically have a more like Gestalt approach, or do you think most dentists are like, I'm working on the teeth, that's all I know?
I'd say for the most part, most dentists are just working on the teeth. We are a lot more integrative than that. I mean, it's not just the teeth; it's the gums. It's reading the tongue. I mean, and you can also see nutritional deficiencies through the mouth. Even simple things like we take a saliva pH to see if the person is acidic or alkaline, and that will tell you the general overall health of the person. I mean, if they're acidic, then you know it's more than just what you're seeing in the mouth. They probably have aches and pains and maybe a little arthritis and a little fibromyalgia, so stuff like that. The conventional dentists don't really go past looking at the teeth and the gums, and they do somewhat look at the soft tissues, and there is a little bit, I think, in the conventional dental schools where they teach you to evaluate some sort of nutritional stuff of the mouth. But in general, no, they don't teach you more than that, all these other things that I've mentioned.
And I don't know, there's so many directions. Go ahead, Sherry.
When I went to my dentist to have my mercury amalgams removed, he said to me, I could lose my license and end up in jail. And that was not too many years ago, but this is a tiny little backwards town that I live in. Did you get any flack from your own dentist organizations, or is there some organization that really supports now alternative dentistry, which I'm going to call that what you do?
Yeah, there's a lot to that question. I'd say in general, according to the American Dental Association, they say that the mercury fillings are perfectly safe. And so you can't say to a patient, these fillings are toxic and they're poisoning you. All we can say is that these fillings are 50% mercury. Mercury is the second most toxic substance on the planet, and it's in your mouth. And that's usually enough for people to get it. And usually there's a lot of information on the Internet where they've already gotten it before they've walked into my office. And the question you asked about, are there alternative organizations? Yes, there are. The big organization we always talk about is called the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. And their website, if anybody's looking for a biologically aware dentist, would be IAOMT.org. And you can find a dentist that understands the implications of working with mercury and offer you a mercury-safe way to remove them so that you don't get poisoned when these fillings get drilled out. And they have dentists listed there by state, by country. It's a very active organization, and it's very well known, and it's very reputable with all the research on the website. There are articles, and there are YouTubes you can watch that show how it should be done, and all the visuals. So you'll see when they drill out this mercury filling that the vapor is certainly being is going everywhere, and you want to make sure that you're very safe and protected when the dentist does that.
And in a nutshell, last year I had to have an amalgam removed, and so I did a bunch of research, of course, and found a local dentist. I'm not certain that he's a member of that acronym that I can never get right.
Okay.
But I do know his procedure, and I know that he used, HEPA filtration, and he had vacuums and dams, and I was fully rigged. It ended up that I actually knew him as I was doing my research from social events, and we talked quite a bit about it. And he also used ozone in his practice, sterilized tissue. So he was a very doing it what I believe is probably the right way. I didn't know that there was an association that kind of had a suggested protocol. But can you give our audience just sort of a brief idea of what that looks like in terms of the correct way to remove an amalgam? Not complete detail, but the idea of the dam and the HEPA filter or filtration.
Yeah, well, certainly you want to be covered as much as you can be. We put disposable covers on everybody, from pretty much from head to mid-calf, and then what we do is we give you a separate air supply, not necessarily oxygen, but it's air supply. Filtered air is okay, so you're not breathing in the aerosol when the mercury fillings get drilled out. And then we put a gizmo in your mouth, a rubber dam or something comparable to it, so that you don't swallow the pieces. And you want some protection from those vapors that are coming out also. You don't want them passing through down, swallowing it or going onto your soft tissue. And then there are filters. We use several filters around the patient so that whatever does float around is taken immediately out from that area. The other thing I should just mention is that besides the patient being protected, you want to make sure that the dentist and his assistants are protected. I've heard stories where the patient may have some protection and then the dentist just does it with no protection for himself or his assistant, and that's sort of important because you want to know that your dentist is totally aware of the implications of breathing in the stuff, especially for the personnel working in the office. So it's more than just you being protected, it's the office itself and the people working on you being protected.
Well, and as you say, that makes so much sense because they're doing this on a repetitive basis every day. Mm-hmm. And so why would they want to be inhaling these vicious vapors? I mean, you're vaporizing a toxin. Oh, my God.
Yeah, but sometimes they're doing it just for show. They're not fully on board with the understanding. They do it because they know what the patient wants. And if that's the way it is, then you really don't want to work with somebody like that. Really. You want because there may be a little bit slipshod in other ways, too. I mean, also in the office, we give everybody activated charcoal rinses, before that we do the procedure, so their soft tissues are coated, so if anything goes past the rubber dam protection, we know that their tissues, the inside of the mouth is protected with this stuff. The activated charcoal, so the mercury won't pass through.
Right. That's really smart. Ooh, I like that trick.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense to me, though, if you take out an amalgam filling and it has to go to a toxic waste dump, how do they expect us to really trust them that it's not toxic? That's illogical.
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but I think it's just the way the dentist has been taught. We've been so indoctrinated by the dental schools that this stuff is harmless. And, I went to school over 30 years ago, and we were taught this stuff was harmless, and somewhere in my head I knew it really wasn't because I have a degree in chemistry, and I know what mercury is, way back before I even knew that this whole thing with the mercury fillings. So that's what I mean. You want to make sure you're working with somebody who gets that, a dentist who understands the implications. And it's not just the office and the patients and the personnel, it's also the environment because, in our office we have a mercury separator, so all the wastewater, when it goes down, it goes through this big gizmo that collects all the mercury in it, and once a year we have this contraption removed out and put a new fresh filter system in. And so the mercury is not going into the wastewater. And, that's something, and the reason why we do that, it's New York State law, we're in New York State, but, the reason we do that is because the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, says this stuff is totally, you can't put this into the wastewater. It's illegal. They can fine you if you don't have this separator in your office. But it makes you think because the American Dental Association says that this stuff is perfectly fine to leave it in your mouth. Somehow you can't put it in the water system, but you can put it in a person's mouth. So the logic there's something missing.
Well, and do you think in the deep dark? There are two questions here. Do you think in the at dental conferences, regular just straight dental conferences, somewhere in the back room when they're all sitting around smoking cigars and drinking, great whiskey, that they just laugh about? They know it's toxic, but they can't do anything about it because the industry is so set up on it. Do you think there's actually the cognition?
No.
Really?
Nope.
Oh my God.
Nope.
Wow.
Absolutely not. I've been to those, in the back room meetings. Nobody talks about that. They talk about the latest, greatest, the newest in the world of conventional dentistry and, how it's going to make things better and how much money it costs and how much the fees are going to be for that. They don't talk about this aspect of the health. I went to a dental meeting a while ago, and they were talking about cosmetic dentistry, and they were showing before and after pictures. And and they were just saying how the teeth look so great afterwards, and all I'm doing is I'm looking at the corners of the mouth and seeing that this person has a B vitamin deficiency, and nobody's picking up on this. They're just looking at the cosmetics of the teeth that they're showing. But that's the first place where my head went and my eyes went was the vitamin deficiency in the person who they just did this makeover for. So, nobody talks about this health aspect of dentistry. And it's sort of like, a hidden thing, and there's a lot of underlying health problems that people have, and nobody can figure out what it is, and much of it may be coming from the world of dentistry. There's so many different metals mostly toxic, and there's so many different procedures that can be very harmful to a person, and the doctors don't see that relationship between the mouth and the teeth and the rest of your health. They just don't get it at all.
And so do straight dentists think that y'all that are members of the IAOMT are just like hippies?
To some extent. They think we're a little strange.
They just think you're like a wacko group that has that deal, and okay, just let them have that because it's just silliness.
Right.
I mean, do you think that's kind of the view? Wow, that's amazing.
I think that's a good part of the view. I think things will shift eventually when enough regular conventional dentists find themselves in a place where they're very ill or their family member is very ill and they can't figure it out, and then they make that connection. Because I've seen that in some of the holistic dentists. Usually they have a problem or the family member has a problem, and then all of a sudden they get it. And then they're starting to shift the whole paradigm of what good dentistry really is, or healthy dentistry really is.
Yeah. I mean, I will. Go ahead, Sherry.
Was that you want a follow-up question to what you were saying?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
We have an audience question, and it leads right into what you've been saying. What's the best nutrients for dental hygiene?
The best nutrients for dental hygiene in terms of gum health, I'm assuming, is that what you mean?
No, I'm just reading it like they wrote it in chat.
Well, it depends on what we're talking about. If it's gum health, the most important things are lots of antioxidants in terms of nutrition. I mean, look, nothing's going to beat flossing and brushing every day. I mean, if you're not going to do that, you can take all the vitamins in the world and nothing may help you, because you're still going to end up with inflamed gums because the plaque is sitting there. But antioxidants are really good. Vitamin C is top of the list. The second thing would be ubiquinol, which is the active form of the coenzyme Q10 that helps the connective tissue of the gums to be stronger so they don't bleed and they're less inflamed.
Well, and with the ubiquinol, you have the great, I'll call this a side effect, and listeners know I don't use that often because I don't really believe in, I believe in effects, I don't believe in side effects, is that with, more CoQ10, you're also benefiting the heart. So you have this great benefit. Do you see a correlation between people that really do need more CoQ10 for their gum health, that they have heart conditions as well? Does anybody look at that kind of correlation ever?
Well, all the research has shown that is true. They've shown that when people have inflamed gums or periodontal disease, that there's a direct relationship to premature heart attacks, strokes, and stuff like that. So, which it makes sense, because if you're bleeding in the gums, it's just a matter of time before a blood vessel somewhere else is going to start bleeding. And if it's in the heart or it's in a blood vessel to the brain, then you get a stroke. I can see how the correlation would be there. The other thing to bear in mind, most of these people who have gum disease or a propensity towards heart disease usually end up having a very low pH that tend to be very acidic. So that's also another missing link that could be involved with this. So when people come in, when we take the pH, if they are very acidic, we try and help them on ways to get their pH to be better. Because most people that come to us are very interested in getting healthy, and they're sort of at their wit's end and how to do that, and they know that we can offer them solutions.
What an amazing concept to think of the body as a whole system.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so shocking, that people still, and dentists, I have an associate who's been a dental hygienist for almost 40 years, and we talk a lot about this, and she's into homeopathy and, not necessarily directly in her practice and dealing with her patients, but, just in the sense of, she's aware, and she was trained as a midwife, and we talk about this a lot in having visited her at a number of offices down through the years, how dentists, it always shocks me that when dentists don't talk like you do, when they just think, it's just the mouth, I'm working on their teeth, that kind of conversation. It just blows my mind that here you are in this really amazingly interactive part of the body where you get to just open your mouth. You don't have to be cut or anything. You just open your mouth and they're poking around and looking and going, and they just don't link to the rest.
Mm-hmm.
It boggles my mind that, the regular association, whatever the regular dental association group is sort of like, no, those people over there are wackos. What are we doing? Back to teeth, more amalgams.
Yeah.
Which leads me to sort of a secondary question is, does this mean we should all rush out and get our amalgams removed, correctly tomorrow?
No, it doesn't mean that. You got to make sure your body's in a good shape where you can handle that. I mean, if you're very weak and you've got a lot of illness, you know, for long term, you got to make sure that your liver's working well, your kidneys are working well. Certainly, you can get an evaluation by a biologically aware dentist and see what they say. But I think you need to make sure you're in a good place where you can actually handle the detoxification of the mercury. You can't just go in there and take out 10 amalgams in one day and expect to feel great the next day. Now, that can happen for some people, but these are people who are in pretty good health to begin with. But most people, if you do one filling at a time, once a month or once a week, that's usually more than enough. It really depends on your own health. And, you know, we have to discern that when the patient comes in, if they've got some chronic health issues, we have to approach this very slowly and carefully.
Yeah. And I've heard you use this term. Talk to us about oil pulling, would you please?
Sure. Yeah, oil pulling is an old Ayurvedic technique. It's been around for thousands of years, and conventionally it was used with sesame oil, but lately other people have been using different kinds of oils. And presently, I would say that most people now in the dental community are using coconut oil. And the reason why coconut oil is so popular is because coconut oil has the ability to remineralize the tooth enamel. And that's not just hearsay. That's actually been shown in some actual research that they've done. So if you have very sensitive teeth, the coconut oil will help remineralize the teeth and may take away the sensitivity. But overall, what oil pulling will do is it will, first it'll clean your mouth. That's always good. And number two, it'll pull toxins out through the meridians of the mouth. And so they say it's best to do it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach while the body is nice and empty so the meridians can be cleaned out better. And then if you're using a good quality oil, sublingually you're going to absorb these essential fatty acids, which are very healthy for you. And it's nice to get it sublingually because a lot of people's intestines aren't in such great shape and they can't really absorb nutrients well. So when you take things in sublingually, it's more effective. It's sort of like when you take a homeopathic remedy sublingually. It just goes in and you know it's there. It's the same thing when you do these healthy oils for oil pulling. And that would be it in a nutshell, actually.
It sounds so amazingly simple. I've recently I've recently discovered, well, not recently discovered, but I've started eating coconut butter, which is really whole ground coconut. In other words, they take coconut and turn it into a paste. So you have all the oils, so you have the great fats, and you have pretty good fiber content, low glycemic index, and it's like the bad part about it is it's like unbelievably delicious.
Yeah, I eat it all the time. Scary. I love it. It tastes great on bananas and chocolate. It's wonderful.
My God, it's good on everything. I just, a peanut, it completely changes the world of what used to be a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It's just like, oh my God, this is like amazing. Unfortunately, I would say the beauty of doing all these great oils, it's not just that you're going to get healthier. Your skin's going to look really great afterwards. All the wrinkles will disappear. Your skin gets clearer. I mean, and your brain will get better because, the brain is mostly neurons made of fat tissue, so you're going to start to think better. I mean, they've done research, and they found that coconut oil in particular, it was a therapeutic dose of 4 tablespoons a day will start to reverse Alzheimer's because you can get the little neurons to start working again by getting them to regenerate. So it has so many good benefits other than just helping your teeth and the rest of your body. It'll help the brain. It'll help, make you look younger. And it's one of those things, the amazing thing to me about the coconut butter is that, A, it's a whole food, which I'm a big fan of whole foods, and also that it is just, it's just really delicious. It's so easy to, that's the bad part, is it's so easy to like open the jar and just be eating it like ice cream because it's just creamy and I haven't noticed, my gum health is pretty good because I have elevated levels of CoQ10 just as a general health, but I do notice my skin has gotten better, and it wasn't bad to begin with, and it's amazing how, again, I suspect in the regular dental world, they don't think about that. Like you're talking about oil pulling, but you're also talking about the benefits of having those whole foods in your system as a whole gestalt benefit. I mean, that's like amazing thinking. Somebody in chat is asking how many teaspoonfuls a day of coconut oil or coconut butter would be good, do you think?
Well, like I said before, the therapeutic dose for Alzheimer's is 4 tablespoons. You can't start out with 4 tablespoons. If you do, you're going to end up with probably diarrhea, because it's going to slowly clean out your intestines in a good way, but the bad side effects, because it's anti-candida as well, because the coconut oil has something in it called caprylic acid, which is very important for people who have candida issues. So I would start out with 1 teaspoon a day, and maybe over every 3 or 4 or 5 days. If you're okay with it and your stomach's okay, then I would up it to like a teaspoon each time, and then when you can get up to a couple tablespoons a day, it's fine. And you can put it in smoothies. It's not like you have to sit there and just swallow coconut oil. You can scramble your eggs in it, or grill whatever you want to grill in it. There's so many different ways to use it. You can even just put it on your skin, and subdermally it'll be absorbed, and it's good that way too. But certainly eating it is priority.
And this same person in chat is looking for a clarification. Do you think that coconut oil or coconut butter would be better? Do you have a choice between those two?
Me personally, no. I mean, it depends what you're using it for. I think they're both good in different ways, and they both certainly will help you. I mean, if you're, making a smoothie, either one will go. If you can eat it straight up, I think the coconut butter is probably more palatable. But if you're going to do the oil pulling, I mean, you can't do it with coconut butter. I would just use them both as much as I could. I mean, I wouldn't say one's better than the other at all. No.
Yeah, and I actually use coconut oil for cooking, for a quick saute, or even if I'm steaming vegetables, sometimes I'll use a coconut oil or a MCT, which is a medium-chain triglyceride. The MCTs are usually derived from coconut oil, so I've used that for a long time. And you just squirt that a little bit over a salad. I mean, it's like easy to get a teaspoon into a salad, because once you start using coconut oil, it's not as strongly flavored. Like that was always the trick with the sesame oil. The sesame oil is very strongly flavored. So it's hard, it's much gnarlier to hold it in your mouth for any period of time, whereas the coconut oil is pretty neutral.
It depends who you ask. Some people can't stand the taste of coconut oil. I've had many patients say they can't stand it. So I just tell them to, instead of oil pulling for 15 minutes, do for 5 minutes or less. Do whatever you can tolerate, or use a different oil. I mean, any oil, whether you use coconut or sesame or even sunflower or even olive oil, they're all good in different ways. I'm not saying one is better than the other in terms of the oil pulling process, but you can just try one for a week and then try a different one for another week and see how it makes you feel, and then you'll know.
I have somebody in chat asking about the length of time. Is 15 minutes enough? Because this person's saying that they've also read that up to an hour would be even more beneficial. But do you think 15 minutes is sufficient?
Yeah, I think it's more than enough. An hour of oil pulling, you'd be drowning, because as you're oil pulling, all the saliva's coming out, and I don't know where it's all going to fit in your mouth. That sounds insane.
Right.
An hour. It really does. And plus, it turns watery, and you just want to get that stuff out. It's not. I don't consider oil pulling a pleasant thing to do, and I think 15 minutes is more than enough for anybody. I mean, it's okay, but by 15 minutes, you've sort of had it, honestly.
You're done. Thank you.
Yeah,
that was great.
done.
I feel much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's also asking about how harmful is, or what effects does Novocaine have?
Novocaine, I mean, it has to be processed through the liver and the kidneys. So if you have any underlying liver or kidney issues, that could be a problem. I think in this modern day world, unless you know how to, self-hypnosis or get somebody to do that for you where you don't feel the pain, I think the Novocaine or the lidocaine or whatever kind of anesthetic the dentist is going to use, I think they're all sort of necessary, because, the drill on a tooth without it or do an extraction without it may be impossible. I mean, because it's painful. I mean, I don't know what other choice they were looking for instead of conventional dental anesthetic.
Yeah. Somebody's also asking, do you think that some kind of sulfur and I'm filling this part in, whether it be an MSM or a NAC, I would actually think that NAC, N-acetylcysteine, would be really good pre or post dental if you're using things like Novocaine, just because it's so good at helping the liver detoxify. That's one thing in my thought. And then
yes,
the actual... Go ahead.
Yeah, all of them are good. Absolutely, the NAC, the milk thistle, dandelion roots, whatever you want to take, MSM, they're all good in detoxing a lot of things. So it's not just for the liver, it's for the whole body. I would just do it. And plus the NAC, converts to the glutathione, it'll give you more energy. I would take this stuff routinely, and maybe just, when you get the dental work, just up it a little bit.
Everybody, people that are listening to me regularly know that I'm a huge fan of NAC. I take NAC on a regular basis, and so I'm a big fan of NAC, and I think it's benefit to the liver for. I like it in particular for what you're talking about, like the Novocaine, or anytime you do anything where you're having something injected into your body, because it's a fast-acting action, and that's what I like about the NAC. But also the sulfur is great as well. Somebody's asking about benefits of sulfur for helping rid the body of mercury residue or mercury in general. Do you think that the sulfur does something positive in that way?
I think the sulfur is good, no matter how you look at it. What we push more for in my practice is I tell people to do chlorophyll drinks, so juicing. I think the chlorophyll might be a little more effective at it. And just anything you can do in addition to that would be something like a salt bath is really helpful. Diatomaceous earth, you can take that. That'll absorb heavy metals from the intestines if you swallowed it. I mean, there's a big long list of things you can do, and certainly if you look up online, you'll find that I wouldn't just stick to one thing, because the body excretes these poisons in so many different ways, and depending on how your body is, how it functions, and what your problems are or challenges are, or even if you've got something like an MTHFR factor going on, the sulfur may be a bigger deal then, so I would do it. But for most people, I just think taking liver support and detoxing with some green juice or oil pulling afterwards, there's so many things you can do that will help, and sweat it out maybe in a far infrared. Do them all. Absolutely do them all.
Well, and the great thing about everything that you're talking about in terms of detoxification is it's all good for you.
Yes.
I mean, all of those things that you talked about, whether it's dandelion or milk thistle or, any of the, I'm an herbalist by training, and so any of the herbs that you would take for liver benefit are going to be benefiting the liver. The liver needs help. It's a lot of work keeping the body detox, so let's help it out. Give a liver a chance. I heard you had a question, Sherry.
Dr. Brand, we're looking at your website, and I know you've written several books. Where can we find those?
Sure. The books, I've written just 2 books. It's enough. The first book is My Secrets to Regaining Health. It's a small book. It talks about the physical aspects of detoxing and healing, and it was many of the things that I discussed about what I did when I had Lyme disease and they left me as incurable. These are the things I did that helped me to heal. And the other book is Enlightened Indigo Child, and that one I've written with Deandra, who's my daughter, who's a Indigo Child. She's a Claire Everything person. And both books are available on Amazon or from our website or Barnes & Noble.
I'm a holistic dentist.
Oh,
oops, there it goes.
That was you on your website. Sorry.
Yeah, that was me. It just comes up automatically. I'm sorry about that. So, the books are available from Amazon and any bookstore that would sell it. If they don't have it, they can certainly order it. It's not a big deal. These books I know work. We've had many people. I've had many people write to me about both the books, how the things have helped them. Certainly, you can read the reviews on Amazon and see what people say. I wanted to mention also the Enlightened Indigo Child book, which is for people with enriched sensory perception or high sensitivities to environmental toxins or people or whatever they got high sensitivities to. We do have a website for it, a separate website called enlightenedindigochild.com, and we have some blogs there that might be helpful. And we also have some social networks for that, specifically a Facebook page that has many thousands of people on it. So if you have any issues with health and energy stuff that might be affecting you, just post up there and join us, and somebody will be able to help you out.
Can you move us from dentistry to the Enlightened Indigo Child book?
Sure. Yeah. All right. So the Enlightened Indigo Child book, like I said, I wrote with my daughter Deandra, and the way we got to write this book was because of all the challenges I had. And as I told you before, I did get well, and most of it I got well because I started doing energy healing work, whether it was removing emotional traumas through EFT or doing other things like the sound therapy. There were many things I did, and my daughter, who was about 12 at the time, because I had been sick since she was 5 years old, and at 12 I started to get well when she was that age, and she had never seen me well. So because of that, I started taking her to these energy healing classes with me, because that seemed to be the secret to getting well. And within a short period of time, she became she became able to see the energetic field and actually start communicating with it. And so by the age of 14, she was a full-blown intuitive and clairvoyant and clair everything. She was clairaudient, you name it, she can see it and talk to it and speak to it, whether it's angels or higher self or dead people or body parts or animals, just anyone. Doesn't matter if they're here presently or they're in another part of the world or even another sort of dimension. And she's used these abilities of hers to actually work in the practice. She does her intuitive metaphysical healing with me there. She has her own separate practice. And we wrote this book because when we were figuring out what it is that she had, we found out that she was an indigo child. And so as a result of that, we went looking for books about indigo children, and we found all the books were terrible. These books about indigo children were talking about how these kids were a new breed of person, which is a terrible thing to say to a child, that they're a new breed of person. It makes it sound like they're a pet. And they also talked about how these kids were medicated or institutionalized or dismissed as insane. And I know my daughter isn't any of those things. She's perfectly healthy and wonderful. She just has a enriched sensory perception. Her sixth sensibility is alive and well. And, just like some kid can sit down and play the piano, my daughter, she can play the piano too, but she can do this other ability where she can tap into these other dimensions and use it to help heal people. So that's why we wrote the book. And the book talks about different ways you can heal energetically. If you are having some unresolved health problems, it may be an energetic aspect of it that's causing it. It may not be a physical thing, or it can be a combination of both, as in my case. And until you clear out both of these aspects of healing, you'll probably never be 100% well. So that's why we wrote it. How's that?
That's great. Do you want to introduce her and have her talk a bit about what makes an indigo child an indigo child?
Yeah, sure. Well, Deandra is my daughter, and she is an intuitive metaphysical healer and a clairvoyant, and she has certifications in an extensive number of healing modalities. She also has a master's degree in acupuncture, although she's not a practicing acupuncturist. But she's well educated in conventional healing modalities as well as alternative healing modalities. And she's right here. And say hello, Deandra.
Hi. So to me, indigo is someone that can see and feel that we are all connected and that there is no disconnect. And they're really heart-centered, so that's how they can sort of understand that concept.
One of the things that Richard and I were talking about before the show is there's these preconceptions that indigo children have ADD or they're brain damaged, or can you set us straight on that?
Yeah, I guess it would be something I would talk about, because we do talk about that quite a bit in the book. And these kids are just highly sensitive, and it's really just an overload, or of toxins, or maybe Wi-Fi in their home or whatever, and it's just screwing up their brain neurological pathways, so their brain can't function well. So when somebody's an overload, they either act out, or they become hyperactive, or they turn inward, therefore becoming autistic. I mean, there are extremes of it where they become postal. They really act out. But, you want to just remove the toxins from these children's environments and detox them as well. So, certainly that being said, the parent has to be on board with that. The parent can't give away their power to a so-called expert in the field who says your kid has a problem. because we don't go down that path, because you know your child better than anyone, and you know your kid didn't have a problem before someone put a diagnosis on them, unless they were perhaps born that way. But most kids were okay until they had a problem where they got a vaccine and something went wrong, or they got into the school system and the teacher said that there was something wrong with them. And there really isn't. There's just an overload of poisons in their body. So you need to clean that up and get these kids healthy. And that's all it really comes down to. So in my mind, I don't believe ADD is a real disease. I mean, it's nice that they have a drug to sort of manage it, but it's not curing it. And if you're looking for cures and getting to the root of all these health issues, you got to look outside the conventional box and, like I did, and for my own health issues, and find the solutions, because your child didn't always have this problem that somebody else said that they had. They were perfectly fine until all of a sudden they weren't. And then, and I have to say, long term, when these kids are on these medications, whether they put them on there for depression or whatever, or learning disabilities, long term, I mean, I've had a few kids in my practice who've been in these drugs, for 20 plus years, and I see how they end up as an adult. And many of them have lots of other problems. And even if they get off these meds, then they're hooked on something else, like alcohol or cigarettes or something else that's certainly not good for you. So, it's important to, recognize what the expert has said, but just take a step back and, don't buy into it. That's what it would be. So, yes, ADD and all these other illnesses that are being put on children, all these mental illnesses, on my mind, are really not real.
One of the stories in your book that really touched me was when Deandra was a young child in grade school, and a very stern, unawakened teacher was yelling at other children in the classroom, and it affected her emotionally and academically and every way. And it shows that we adults are creating most of the stress for these children.
That's true. That's true. And as a parent, you have to be aware of that. And just because a person has a teacher's degree and license and whatever, it doesn't mean that they know really what they're doing. It just means they know how to take a test and pass it and do okay with that. Like that particular teacher, she herself was young, had no children of her own, had very little teaching experience, and this is the way she dealt with, the unruly children in there. And, Deandra, not even being an unruly child, just being a highly heart-centered person, was feeling it all very emotionally within.
Deandra, can you talk about that experience from your perceptions of it, of how that stress was created?
Okay, so I was like 5 years old. I was in kindergarten, and I was really always sensitive, emotionally sensitive. So I was empathic, really, and so when other people were in distress or having emotional challenges, I'd be the first one to go up to them and say, "Are you okay? Is there anything I can do?" That kind of thing. So when other kids were being yelled or screamed at, it affected me, of the injustice of it all. And as a 5-year-old, you don't really have much power then. I didn't have much power saying that's not right, that's not okay. And so that's how my body reacted to it. I cried. It worked to so much to the body effect of it. I actually peed on myself because I was 5. I didn't know how to verbalize, stop the injustice of it all.
Is your life different from, I can't even ask you the question, because do you know what normal people don't feel? Or just how does it feel to be an Indigo person and try to live in this strange world of non-feeling and non-sharing and non-being, just existing?
So when I was in I went to public school. So when you're in the normal public school system, there's a lot of children in the class. You're not really cared about as an individual, and so it's whatever. You're just you just have to do what you have to do. You have to take the test. You have to be with other children that aren't so okay, mentally, physically, whatever, and just deal with it. In high school, I was still in public school. That's when the emotional, intuitive stuff came out more. So that's when it sort of blew up more. I could see more things and feel more things. And that was interesting because I didn't have that before when I was little. It was just more sensitive. And I was aware of it. But it was okay because I had other abilities. I could still speak with people. I had a personable personality, so I could still function in the real world. I had to. So it's fine because you have to sort of live in this 3D world and still go to school and still do your homework and still eat food, and you have to be able to detox and ground yourself. So I have these little tricks and tools that I use to function well and to do what we consider quote-unquote normal, like normal people do. I still go out. I still have friends. I can still eat chocolate. I mean, there's still normal things that I do. It's just I'm more sensitive, and I have an awareness because of what happened with my mom. I have an awareness of what else can be done. I don't have to just sit there and take it.
I think for Deandra also, she had a good support system because she had me, and I was there, and we could talk about these things. Some parents don't listen to their kids and don't really talk to the kids. Kids come home from school, and then they sit in front of a TV or a computer, and that's the end of it. They don't even eat dinner together. But I think we tried to provide a good, nurturing, grounding environment for Deandra, and I have another child too. She has an older brother, and both of them are okay in that respect. I mean, he's an indigo as well, although he's a different kind of indigo. I think what helped both of my children to do extremely well in school and life in general is that we found outside interests. We didn't let the school system define them. So, like, both of my kids are black belts in karate, and I think that was a very grounding thing to do, and it gave them a sense of power, which unfortunately the school system always takes away. It makes you feel like you're a victim sometimes, especially if you have a teacher who yells at you. So, stuff like that. I think the parents have to be on board with the food and the environment so that the kids feel that they're listened to and supported.
Deandra, do you only work in your mom's office?
I have a practice there for over 10 years. It's well established.
Well, my question is, do people with dental issues, and I guess I can't really say that because your mom practices a lot with other kinds of energy, the whole body thing, but I was wondering if people with specific dental issues or heart issues, or can you identify those just by feeling their energy field?
Yes, absolutely. Like just recently, my mom had a patient who had to come in for normal dental work, but he was having this chronic pain, and my mom did the normal dental stuff, like taking x-rays, make sure the tooth was okay, et cetera, et cetera. And then you find out that the patient's grandparents just died like a day ago, and ever since their grandparent died, they had this aching pain thing going on. And so after they saw my mom, a regular dentist, then they saw me, and I cleared the energetic field of the grandparents. So these things do connect to each other.
Do things get stuck in a particular place when there's a death?
When there's a death? No, it depends upon the person. It depends how they hold it, how they feel it, because each person is different. So some people, their heart chakra is an important place for them, or some people are very thinky, so a lot of their stuff is in their head, so they have mental disturbances. It depends on the person.
Wow. This is very interesting. I put up one of the pages from the Enlightened Indigo Child book that has I think there's 21 of them on this page, what it's like for an indigo child. Heart-centered, cares about others more than they care about themselves, wise beyond their years. People can go ahead and read it for themselves that are watching, but for those who are listening, on Blog Talk Radio and can't really watch, what's the one thing made you stand out?
I really think it is being heart-centered. I always had that when I was little. That was a really big attribute for me. My brother had that too. I mean, the world makes you hard. The world can be tough on a person, so sometimes indigos do turn that off, and that can be hard to see. But originally, when I was little, I was heart-centered, and I had that great empathy towards others.
Well, it sounds like you're very lucky to have a mother that understood, and on the other side of this, prepared you with a black belt in karate.
Yes.
So, that's an odd combination, but it seems like it works.
I think it's a great combination because of the karate gives you trains you to have a place of center. So in a certain grounding, as your mom said, a certain sense of grounding. So it does seem an odd world of, this what would be considered to be an aggressive sport for somebody who's incredibly empathetic. But on the other hand, it gives you that sense of center so that then you know your core that you're operating from. Because that was one of my questions for you is, so you had all these skills or all these abilities probably coming in as a child, but you had to kind of like, what's that? What the hell am I looking at? What am I feeling? What am I saying? You begin to have to develop the language of the things that you're sensing and feeling and, having some kind of knowing about. But as a child, you have no sense of what that knowing is. And you have adults around you who are just lumbering oafs. I mean, in a kind way, sort of. Yes, exactly. I heard that. Mm-hmm. So I think karate is a great way of. I know a number of intuitives and children who could use that training as a sense of like, no, this is my center, and now I have a secure center, and if I really need to, I'll punch you in the face. So I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, it was really helpful growing up.
Yeah. And did you say your brother, or did you say,
yes, I have an older brother.
You have an older brother who's a different kind of indigo?
Yeah, he's 5 years older than me. He's an established person. He has a degree in engineering, computer engineering, and he is a lawyer, so he's really established in the system.
Wow.
But he's definitely a spiritual closet indigo, because he had those little attributes when he was a baby and when he was younger. And so that was interesting.
Yeah, when he was younger, he was the one with the night terrors. He would see stuff, but he couldn't communicate what he was seeing. And, at the time, the pediatrician said it's just night terrors, just comfort the child. But in retrospect, we know that he was probably seeing stuff, and he just couldn't tell us what it was. And even as an older person, when he was a teenager, he would hear voices calling him, and nobody would be around. But he just sort of poo-pooed it and told the voice to go away, which was fine. Yeah. And
so he went like polar opposite in a certain sense of going completely linear, becoming an engineer and attorney. I mean, I can't think of more. There probably are more linear, but I'm not sure what they would be. Practices to go into no, I'm going to totally focus my power of intellect. I don't hear the voices. But as an attorney, it must be fascinating to watch him in court, to be empathetic with people around him and go, whoa, what's that? But being very linear all at the same time. Wow.
Yeah, that's him for sure.
Well, I'm surprised to find that we're, rolling toward the end of the show already. Please do tell us where people can get a hold of you, Doctor, and of Deandra, all that information, the wheres and hows.
Sure. Okay, sure. If you want to reach me, you can go to thebrandwellnesscenter.com, and from there's links to all the other sites. But if you want to get Deandra directly, it's DeandraHeala.com, and she does do sessions with people over Skype and over the phone. So if you're not in the New York City area, it's no great big deal, because she's done plenty of sessions over the phone and Skype. If you're interested in the books, again, Enlightened Indigo Child, we do have a website, and you can certainly go there and get more information. And the other book, My Secrets to Regaining Health, it's a small book. Both books are available for sure at Amazon.com, and that's pretty much it. And go to any bookstore. If they don't have it, I'm sure they can get it for you.
And take more CoQ10 and floss, damn it.
Yeah.
Start there. Good grief. And I'm going to go eat some coconut butter.
There you go.
That's my excuse. Any other thoughts, Sherry?
No, it's been fascinating.
Yeah, I just wanted to end with on a positive note and say that whatever you've been diagnosed with, just understand that that's the diagnosis from a conventional world. Just take it for whatever it's worth, and don't accept it as a permanent thing that you have to have. Everything's reversible. I mean, unless you're missing an arm or a leg or something. But if you have a chronic illness or you have a diagnosis of some emotional or mental or some physical disease, it's all reversible, everything. There's no disease caused by a deficiency of any drug. And when you come from that philosophy, everything can be healed. And there's a whole pharmacy within your body just waiting to put out the right hormones and chemicals to cure you. Just do it. Keep looking.
What a wonderful thought. That's great. And for those of you who want to start on a sound therapy career, join us for our free 2-day technician workshop on the 7th and 8th. Go to our site, soundhealthoptions.com. Go to classes, and it's the 2-day technician class. Read more about it, and we will talk to you on Tuesday when we're doing happy hour, and we're going to be looking at your reactions to statin drugs through your vocal print.
Yikes. That would be my immediate reaction to statin drugs. Yikes. Thank you so much, Adele and Deandra. That was very fun. That was fact-filled and great information with the Indigo information as well. So everybody have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Geico presents Unanswerable Questions.
Why are yawns contagious? What makes some ketchup fancy? Or the big one, why doesn't everyone switch to Geico when they could save 15% or more on car insurance? However, you could be a part of the answer by switching to Geico and saving hundreds for yourself. Money you could use to purchase bottle after bottle of the fanciest of ketchups.
Geico, the answer to savings. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. 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 Save you 15% or more.